To set up ChordKits with Ableton, first you need to download the files. After you download the files, they should automatically extract into the folder structure. If they don't and you still see the zip file without seeing the folder structure, just double click to extract. This works for Windows and PC. You'll notice in the folder structure you've got two versions. You've got a push version and you got a keyboard version. One thing to mention is Ableton creates this Ableton project info folder. There is also a text document here with just a reminder not to delete this folder. You'll see this folder in the push version and in the keyboard controller version as well. Do not delete this folder. This tells Ableton where the samples are. So what we do is we have our Ableton Live program open and we're going to click on the main parent folder. So it's the folder that contains the push and the keyboard folders. And we're going to drag this over to the sidebar here. Instead of dragging and dropping, you can also click the add folder to select your ChordKits folder. So after you have the ChordKits folder show up in your browser, it may take a few seconds, maybe 30 seconds or up to a minute for Ableton to scan the folders and then for them to actually appear here. Now we have two versions. We've got the push version and the keyboard controller version. This is now installed. This will always show up every time I open up Ableton. Now to load for push, all we do is expand this folder, go to presets, and then I can double click on my presets with my mouse. They'll load up in the first slot here. Or I can use the push. If you want to scroll through the presets, you can tap on this browse button here, and it opens up the browser view, and automatically I can see all my presets. I can use the arrow keys to scroll up and down, and then press the load button to select. One thing also to mention is to press the accent button. This will play the pads at full velocity. Makes the sound consistent, and ChordKits was designed to play that way. Here's how you play ChordKits on the push. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm still in this browse mode. I'm going to tap on the browse button here. Let's press that. Now I go back into the effects mode where I can see all my macros. And you can see we've got a pad 16 by 16 layout here. If I press play twice, it'll stop the signal from playing. And these are chord progressions going from top to bottom. So imagine that these are tracks that play together. You've got the bass, and you've got a chord, and you've got something supporting the chord, and then usually a higher sound, maybe a one shot or something at a higher octave. Something that fits together well. You can play them from left to right. You can play them however you want. And what's cool with the push version is we've got built-in effects that are ready to go. So for example, on knob 1 here, you've got transpose. So I can change the vibe up totally. And make something different. Then you've got a filter frequency button here. And a resonance to go with it. Make this sound a little darker. And then you've got a cool filter wave knob here. That gives it a nice wah-wah effect. Then of course you've got reverb and delay. You don't have to play everything at the same time. You can also play it in pairs. For example, the bass and the higher sound. That sounds different than this. So come up with different combinations. You can usually play the top row as an instrument. Each preset is different and they offer different features like that. Okay, so for the keyboard version, you're going to open up the ChordKits keyboard controller folder, go to presets, and you've got your presets here. You can double click on them. You can also drag them over to whichever track you want them on. Okay, so now this is installed, it's ready to go, and everything is mapped to the keyboard. All right, so give you an idea of how this works. You have the octaves here. So one octave is the bass. The next octave is the chord. And we've got something supporting the chord, and then usually a higher pitch sound. And you can either play them in one by one, or you can play them with octaves using your pinky and your thumb. I can use two hands. Here on the screen, you do have effects that you can use with the mouse. For example, you've got transpose knob here. If I click and drag the transpose knob as I'm playing, I can change the pitch, which changes the vibe. You can also change the filter, the resonance. There's a cool wah-wah sound here with this filter wave effect. We've got an LFO rate that controls the rate that the wah-wah fluctuates. We've got reverb, delay, and there's an extra macro field here for you to put whatever plugin you want, any effect. If I play and I tweak a little bit so you can get an idea of the sounds, you'll hear the filter first. And I'm using my mouse right now. The mouse is controlling the knob as I play. I can add some reverb, some delay. I can also add this wave LFO. It's got a really cool sound to it. And as you can hear right now, it already sounds different than what I played originally. We're still in the same preset. Now, if you wanted to, you can program these macros on your controller knobs. You can actually use any input on your controller, but we're going to use the knobs since it makes most sense. What you heard was me using the mouse, and you see that you can still do pretty cool stuff with the mouse. But let's go ahead and program it with the knobs. Now, fortunately, Ableton Live is super easy to do this. In order to make this happen, you're going to click on MIDI here on the top right. Then you're going to select your knob. We're going to do the transport knob. And then after that, I'm going to move the knob. So I've clicked on the actual effect that I want to map, and now I'm about to move the knob. Here we go, and there we go. You see, there's some sort of indicator letting me know that I've moved this knob, and I'll go ahead and click the MIDI button again to turn this off. And now we're out of the mapping mode, and if I twist the knob, you can see here my transpose knob is changing the pitch, right? So I'll go ahead and play and just use the hardware controller. So that's pretty cool. And you can do this for everything. So I can click on MIDI and then the filter. I'm going to change the filter knob. Click on the next one, resonance, and I'm just moving down on the hardware controller. And I can skip the stuff that I don't want. In this case, I'm going to put everything. There we go. And I'm going to hit MIDI. And now I can move any of these knobs here and have full control. So there's two ways you can record this in. You could play one by one, which I do sometimes, or you could just kind of jam out. So I've got a drum loop here. Let's go ahead and play it. So I could just record it like that, and then the next piece after that. Or I could do it with one hand, two octaves. Just kind of noodle around and vibe out to it. I've got my effects on the knobs here, so tweak it a little bit.